Buckle up, bitches. Today we're in for a doozy. Band called Voracious Contempt, straight out of Texas. So it is Texas death metal. You think it'd be New York death metal, considering the name comes from a Internal Bleeding album from the 90s. Presumably considered the first true slam album, Demonacy. But anyways, this EP is called Exquisite Suffering, and it first glance this looks very devourment-y type of thing. Definitely not old school brutal death metal. Definitely not 90s brutal death metal. I would say a similar sound to this and image would be around 2005 to 2009. And it's funny too because the guy in the band called Waden, if I'm saying that right, he actually digitalized my fucking logo for your Read for Driller. This like Lividity type internal, it was like Lividity, like Extinction era internal bleeding and Lividity put together. That was kind of what your Read for Driller was, but he actually digitalized the fucking our logo, so I thought that was pretty cool. But it made me want to do this even more to show some fucking respect, because it's a good EP for Exquisite Suffering. The first track starts off very groovy, kind of goes into like, you know what, it's kind of very similar to Extinction era Internal Bleeding, the most. It has that snare, that like dehumanized snare, like beat down snare, like denied, fucking 1 second thought, shit like that. And then it kind of goes a little hardcore at times. Not to say that's a bad thing, but it does have that hardcore sound. Again with the that like big snare. Bands like Final Resting Place are doing that nowadays. But it's kind of like you're seeing this resurgent in old school brutal death metal come out. You know, like I mentioned, you have Final Resting Place. You have Nuclear Remains just dropped. I did the review for that. My own band, Impure Conception, comes from an Afterbirth track. This band comes from an Internal Bleeding album. So, you know, like Internal Bleeding, Mortal Decay, Scatter Remnants, shit like that is fucking very well alive in these small communities, mostly people my age, around like early to late 20s. You're seeing a lot of this old school brutal death metal sound in these bands nowadays. It seems like the caveman era is dead. It's all about snare. You're seeing snare in a lot of more bands. Bands like Corpse Pile, Body Box, you know, a lot of the Maggot Stomp bands have went that way. The new Standard Elite bands are still pinging. You do have some exceptions. Hardcore seems to be the thing. Torture's leaning to hardcore. You're seeing, you know, spin kicks, a lot of this stuff. Exquisite Suffering does have a little bit of that. But the main focus is, of course, the Extinction of Benevolence Internal Bleeding style. I hear the style in the vocals. I know exactly what the band is heading for. The second track for Exquisite Suffering has sort of that like hardcore, almost like nu metal opening. If you listen to it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The third song, for all you fucking dweebs like me, has a Halo 2 sound bite in it from The Arbiter, voiced by Keith David. You should know him from the TV show Gargoyles, The Thing, which is a horror classic. So it's cool that something like that. And again, these like early 20s, I imagine these kids are in this band. So, I mean, you know, you're going to get a little bit of that edge from that. But, you know, you look at a picture of these guys, you know, you're seeing Dying Fetus, you're seeing Suffocation, you're seeing, you know, classic death metal bands that are brutal in this sense. Speaking about the fourth track, the final track here, you will notice a lot more Mortal Decay presence. Yes, I know. It seems like Mortal Decay gets talked about every fucking day on this channel, and for good reason. I mean, people are starting to realize that it's like, hey, this is not just a fucking band that just has disgusting imagery, brutal imagery, and nothing to back it up. Like the riffs, the songwriting, Johnny's vocals, Kelly's fucking aggression. You're seeing all these great things in Mortal Decay being posted everywhere. Again, with these like forensic and sickening technical guitar riffs. The song has delirium in it. That's a staple in Mortal Decay lyrics. So these kids are paying tribute to these older bands nowadays. Granted, you also have a lot of similarities, like I mentioned. You do have that final resting place type of ding, bing snare, the dehumanized snare, I don't know, denied, 1 second thought, stuff like that. I've mentioned that before. You are getting that here. It is not a blasturbation demo. It is not new standard elite. This is something that Texas death metal has not really done in a while. I'm not going to name any bands, but of course you guys know the sort of like the trendy bands, the hottest bands in Texas. They're all that is not what you're going to get here. You're going to get pure slam, old school slam, not peeling flesh slam, not Wigger slam. You're going to get pure old school brutal death metal slam. I highly recommend Exquisite Suffering by Voracious Contempt. I think it is also a contender and something that you will be seeing a lot of in top 10 lists, especially in brutal death metal slam. I think that this is a band to be on the radar. I think that this album is going to be seen as a modern old school brutal death metal classic. I think it is going to get some Waves Road on it. I'm predicting that it is going to you're going to see this on more mainstream stuff later in time. I think that the timing for these bands is not the best right now, but I think that in the future you are going to see a shift. I know right now it's kind of like Cali Kid, brutal death metal is kind of the wave for our scene. For the underground still, I'm talking. Some bands are doing better than others. Some bands just completely fell off. But for Exquisite Suffering, I would definitely recommend picking up the cassette tape. It has a nice brand new logo, has nice brutal death metal art. It feels good to look at. It feels good to listen to. It has memorable stuff, so I would definitely recommend picking it up. That's my thoughts. Rating, I'm going to go with, I think Nuclear Means, I think I gave an 8 out of 10. I'd also give this an 8 out of 10. The 4 songs, I think there needs to be, well, obviously it's EP, but I was just craving just a tiny bit more. Like, there's just that, like, one little thing missing from this EP. But that's why it's called an EP. If there's a full length, I would love to hear it. I can't wait to see the future of this band.